We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's December 19th here in Seoul. I'm Shin-Yoon, and you're watching News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Nal Song.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Park Ki-hoon.
Thank you for having me.
Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. Starting with news in the States, the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, is under fire for trying to hold a no-whites Christmas party. City officials mistakenly sent an invite to all members of the Boston City Council that specifically read electeds of color. In other words, white councilors weren't supposed to receive this invite. The aide that sent this invite out admitted he had made a mistake and apologized for offending anyone. Boston City Council is comprised of 6 minorities and 7 white members. And South Korea's military has revised its enlistment criteria. Now, even severely obese men will have to complete their military service. Before, individuals with a body mass index of 35 to 39.9 were classified as severely obese and would be placed as public service agents. But officials determined that this BMI standard isn't that big of a problem when serving in regular military units. Experts believe the change in enlistment criteria could have been affected by the lack of soldiers, namely due to South Korea's dwindling population. And 20-year-old Eve Jills had the honor of winning this year's title as Miss France. She has drawn much attention for being the only contestant this year who chopped her hair short, though. Jills said she chose this short hair look to promote the message of diversity and highlight how every woman is different and unique. Now, viewers had split reactions to Miss France 2024. Some lauded her, while others criticized the pageant for seemingly promoting political correctness, or PC, and wokeism rather than traditional beauty. Now, what do you guys think here in the studio? Where do you lean towards more in regards to this growing controversy?
Honestly, I'm all for beauty pageants, keeping its tradition of the standardization of a beautiful and a feminine woman, but it did become a little controversial as she came third in the public vote, but actually came first in the judges' top choice, as the judges' top choice, who were all female. A little controversial there.
Yeah.
And one also quoted online, making people believe the most beautiful woman in France looks like a man is woke. So, I just think France is particularly sensitive to PC and not quite willing to break the traditions, which is quite understandable. But I just think, social media is playing a much bigger role nowadays.
Right.
Hence the reason why we're seeing more polarized mindsets. And they're expressing their views a little more, and it's coming to the surface. That's why this has become very viral.
It has
online,
become viral.
yeah.
And in France, too, this pageant is a very big deal. Over 7 million people were watching this event. We've also seen it continue its tradition for more than 100 years. So a lot of people were putting their eyes on what type of beautiful woman would be seated as Miss France 2024. But when it seemed to go a little away from traditional feminine beauty, that's where people started to get mad. And then we've now seen the debate on wokeism and versus traditional beauty. But what were your thoughts on short hair being defined as wokeism?
Well, first of all, personally, I think it looks great. I think she looks great. But it is true that less women have short hair in beauty pageants. Actually, not a lot of women have short hair. And longer hair seems to be the traditional standard of beauty. But I don't think it's as of a big deal as we're talking about it. I'm all for diverse beauty standards. And sure, short hair is refreshing. But I don't think people should be criticizing her or praising her just for her hair.
Exactly.
There's so much more to a person than just hair, and we should take in every woman for just the entirety of who she is rather than just the individual beauty choices that they make.
Exactly. In summation, I think this beauty pageant was criticized for pandering to wokeism, but at the same time, a lot of politicians, even in France, started supporting Jill, saying that France's beauty or the level of political correctness or open-mindedness shouldn't be confined just to how short your hair is. So we'll see how this story develops in the coming days, but in the meantime, that was our news feed for this Tuesday. Let's now switch gears to our main discussion topic of the day. If you're active on social media, you might have come across the hashtag eggfreezing. It's a booming hashtag for the under 25s, and my AI voice secretary will zoom in on why a growing number of people in their 20s and early 30s are choosing fertility preservation.
Gen Z is challenging the traditional life trajectory, prioritizing education and career goals before settling down. This delay in starting families has prompted many to explore fertility preservation options, such as freezing eggs. Earlier this year, the Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority released a report that found between the years 2019 and 2021, 60% more women froze their eggs. The average age of women freezing their eggs has also come down. Take the UK, for example, where a growing number of young women under the age of 25 were opting to freeze their eggs.
Fertility preservation, it's like putting a pause on our biological clock, and this option isn't just popular abroad, but more young people, even in Korea, are considering it. So let's talk about how attractive egg banking or other fertility preservation options are for many young adults these days, especially here in Korea.
Yeah, I think many people are getting married at an older age to start with, and I guess we have a longer life expectancy. We want to do more with our life and higher education. I have all of these things to thank for, but while it's great that we have a more slowly and maturely approaching the idea of marriage and reproducing and having children, I do think we're always constantly battling against biological and environmental issues when it comes to having children. So a lot of people consider freezing eggs and sperm as they plan for the future, and not just married couples, but even for unmarried singles who are planning their future, their careers, they're considering this, and they want to leave options open. So I've prepared this graph, and as you can see from this data from Cha Medical Center, the number of cases of freezing eggs by unmarried women, so these are people who are single, who decided to preserve, have increased 14 times since 2015. So now they are at 1,004 cases. So I think this is showing that our generation is really interested in planning the future and kind of responsibly doing so by saying, oh, I do want children someday and I want to keep that option open.
Exactly, they're planning ahead. Now, Kyung, would you like to add on how many millennials and Gen Z are interested in fertility preservation?
Sure. Like besides egg freezing that Niall just talked about, many men, on the other hand, consider sperm banking. It is not as common as egg freezing because men biologically produce sperm all throughout their life cycle, whereas women, the amount of egg that women are born with is quite fixed, between 2 to 3 million eggs. And the functionality and the quality of the eggs obviously deteriorate significantly from the age of 35. It's been scientifically proven. And sperm banking became a little more, I guess, popular or viral because a lot of Korean male celebrities in their 40s and 50s opened up saying, you know, they've frozen their sperms to give birth to a more healthy baby in the near future. But I think on one hand, fertility preservation may seem like the right decision to do right now, just like having extra insurance in the future. However, I think it's further emphasizing the general social behavior of putting marriage and having children a little behind compared to like other priorities, which I think is the main reason for the declining population here in Korea. And it is quite of a serious problem, but to be honest, like thinking about all the social factors, it is understandable that why people are delaying marriage or so many different issues like housing costs and, you know, just job instability. But I think if women, a lot of single women are choosing to freeze their eggs seems like the right option for now, I think.
And not only are celebrities leading this trend, I think social media, as we mentioned right before our VCR, this hashtag egg freezing or sperm baking is going viral on different social media platforms where people are sharing their own experience as to how it's like. Now, I would now like to analyze the reasons behind the upsurge in fertility preservation options out there.
I think we're the generation that saw a lot of people who went out and got their careers started, and we saw a lot of great career women, and also we saw the cost of that. A lot of people struggled with infertility by the time they reached that age of when they want to have kids, maybe in their late 30s or even in their early 40s. And so we're more interested in planning ahead, trying to catch both rabbits or two birds, we say. So just really planning for the future. And our generation plans for retirement already too. So it's not strange that we would plan for having kids in case we do want to have kids later on. In a way, it's kind of just buying more time to figure out who you are as a person, what you want to do in life, as well as keeping that option open.
Exactly. And I think before, like years back, many thought that this was only something celebrities do, as Kyun mentioned, because celebrities, it's really important that they make or break in their early years of their career. If you get married and tied down to a baby, I think that does sort of stop your career in a sense. But now I think a lot of youth are emphasizing to that. We really believe that us too, we might have a career break, which is why we feel that fertility preservation could put the brakes on the burden of our biological clock ticking. But are there any other reasons that could explain why our generation is looking for these options?
Sure. South Korea is a very competitive society and always had this fierce working culture from the past. Even though many youngsters, including us, really nowadays seek a better work-life balance, but sadly that's not the reason for us to get married at an early age or to have kids, rather quite the opposite. Also, with more women in the workforce now, many choose to build their careers, like what Niall just mentioned, over marriage, because the peak of their professional career kind of overlaps with the optimum age for them to have really healthy babies in their mid-20s to late 20s. So I think the delaying, having the baby, because I think is only natural because the corporate culture is not so lenient for women taking maternity leaves, and they fear that when they do come back, they may lose their position or just kind of fall back compared to other men in the workforce. Hence, it's the significant increase in the number of single women visiting the hospital for egg freezing is only natural, and I think it's good in a sense that many women still think of having a kid, later in their life, but I don't know what's the right option right now.
To see. And now my last question during this part of the discussion, given that you guys are speaking on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s, are you also thinking of fertility preservation?
I did consider it at one point as this option opened up, but as I found out a little more, it's not just this one thing that you can poof and then keep your eggs and it'll be all handy dandy. But IVF also afterwards just not fermenting, what is fertilizing. Fertilizing the egg is also not an easy process either. So you have injections, you have hormones, you have to retrieve the eggs, and you have to maintain the eggs. This is all money, and you have to use the eggs later on, and all of this just didn't seem like an easy process. And I thought about, is this something that I really want to put my time and money and everything into? Do I want kids that much? And I came to the conclusion, if I don't get a natural pregnancy and in time, then I just wouldn't do it.
That's a valid point because, as you mentioned, it is costly and there's no 100% guarantee that you would have a baby through this option. What about you, Kyun?
I never really thought of sperm banking until I actually, thought about this discussion topic. I don't have any plans to get married anytime soon, so I think this may be the smart option for me. But to be honest, I don't really blame the social change happening in South Korea, but it has definitely changed my view of marriage and having kids because of, the cost of living is just going up and up every day. And I say this because a lot of my friends back in Sydney, most of them are married and many of them have a child or even 2 or 3.
Wow, already?
Yes, it's very different kind of lifestyle that we're living in right now. And I think the society really does influence our behavior as well. So,
exactly. And South Korea is home to the lowest birth rates at the moment, which is why it's not really helping for us to, think about Planned Parenthood. And now to find out more about fertility preservation and what type of health side effects there are or what the procedure is like, we're going to include an actual health expert in our talks. To better find out how popular of an option fertility preservation is among those in their 20s and 30s, we're going to include a health expert in our talks. It's Dr. Alice Tan, an internist at Ms. Medi Women's Hospital. Welcome, Dr. Tan.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so Dr. Tan, we've been mentioning that fertility preservation seems to be a popular option among those in their 20s and 30s. Just how many of your patients are in this generation? And can you see for yourself that freezing eggs and embryos is a growing millennial and Gen Z trend?
Yes, I would agree with that. So, over the last 13 years, we have seen a significant increase in the number of women who are choosing to have what we call mature oocyte cryopreservation. That's the medical terminology for freezing one's eggs. Back in the 2010s, there were really only a handful of cases per year who chose this procedure. Over the last 2 years, however, at my institution, we had 55 cases, which is a significant increase in the number of cases. In terms of the age distribution, certainly women in their 30s made up the majority of the cases, 56% of the cases over the last 10 years, followed by women in their 40s, actually, 34%. Of our cases were in their 40s, and there were 10% of the cases who were women in their 20s. And we have seen an increase in trend in women, younger women, women in their 20s who are choosing to pursue this procedure.
And you just mentioned that there's a wide range of ages, but when would you say is exactly the golden time to do this, freezing one's eggs?
Right. So studies have shown, I think it was mentioned earlier in the show, that age is the most important factor in terms of determining fertility. And the cutoff age is for women 35 years. So it was found in one study that given 10 oocytes or 10 eggs are retrieved, if a woman is above the age of 30, the chance of having a successful live birth is about 30%. However, if the age of the woman is younger than 35, and she has the same 10 eggs that are retrieved, the chances of a successful live birth go up to 60%, so double. So the younger that a woman undergoes this procedure, the better the chance that she will have a retrieval of more eggs and also higher quality eggs, eggs that are healthy that can lead to a live birth.
Dr. Tan, before we go on to Kyun, is that the same for men though?
In terms of sperm quality, the age cutoff is not the same, but certainly age does play a part in terms of the quality of the sperm that we can retrieve for artificial insemination.
I see.
Dr. Tan, are there any side effects to egg freezing?
Yes, there can be. There can be some local side effects such as pain and bruising. There can be systemic side effects such as nausea, vomiting, bloating. And hormones are used in stimulating the ovaries to produce the mature oocytes. And the side effects of the hormonal treatment can include mood swings and hot flashes. The most severe, serious side effect is called ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. And in this case, it can be a potentially life-threatening situation. There can be fluid accumulation in the abdominal cavity, in the chest. We could also see kidney function damage and blood clots that can form. This is a very rare complication, but it is something that occasionally, very rarely, we do see in women who undergo hormonal stimulation in order to retrieve mature oocytes. Also, I should mention that some women will receive this procedure prior to a treatment, a medical treatment or surgical treatment for cancer. And there is a very rare chance that there could be cancer cells hidden in the oocytes or in the ovarian tissue that is harvested. And there's a very, very small risk of what we call tumor recrudescence. In other words, that the cancer being reintroduced to the body after the woman has received cancer treatment when the oocytes are reimplanted. But
Dr.
It's
Tan, due to time, we have to cut you off right here, but I think careful consultation with a medical health expert is needed before taking on this grave step. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Now, apart from setting a safety net or alleviating the burden of seeing our biological clock tick by, what could be some societal benefits of more fertility preservation? Do you think this could be an actual solution to tackling low birth rates?
I do think it could be, just a good thing to have one more option. But somehow, if we can get married and settled down in our 20s, as people used to do, I do think that it saves a lot of trouble of going through all the procedures that she just mentioned. So I think it's good to have both options, and we should pursue both.
I know. Hopefully, we could be pursuing both. And in order for that to happen, I do think better education policies and information should be available to the public. But in the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Niall Song.
No problem.
And Park Ki-hoon.
Always a pleasure.
All right, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.